How's it going, David from Comic Book Investments? So I compiled a list, a huge list of comic book covers where their value is solely based on the cover itself or maybe the artist that drew the cover. And it's not tied to anything else like the first appearance of Wolverine in Hulk 181. Although Hulk 181 is kind of an iconic cover, it's tied to the fact it's the first full appearance of Wolverine. So these comics have extreme high values compared to other ones in the run, just based off the cover alone. Now, some of these are going to be classic covers, and some of these will probably become classic covers, but there are some modern books in here that are probably on the way to becoming classic covers. So first one on the list is Detective 880, done by Jock, one of my favorite all-time covers. And this one, in a 9.8, has a fair market value of $375. That's way more than if you went for, say, Detective 879 or 881. And it's just a great cover. People love this cover, clearly. And I could see this one day probably becoming a classic cover. Next is we got Wolverine number 27. This is a great cover, and it's done by Jim Lee. And this has a fair market value of $170 in a 9.8. Next is we got Batman 251. This is a Neil Adams. And a 9.8, yes, it sells for $33,000, but obviously you can go down and get something much cheaper. But this is becoming a classic cover. Now, this was done many decades ago, but that just tells you how long it takes to become a classic cover. Again, there's nothing innately in this book that's like a first appearance of something. It's just the cover people love, and a lot of times these covers get homaged, so you'll probably see tons of variants and tons of homages to these covers. And if not now, someday in the future. Speaking of homages, that's been done many times. How about Hulk Annual number 1? This is done by Jim Steranko, and this in a 9.8 is selling for a little over $10,000. And this just seems to be a great cover. I love this cover very much. One of Steranko's best works. And this next one for sure will become a classic cover, no doubt. I mean, you probably consider it a classic cover now. This is, of course, Hulk 340 by Todd McFarlane. Great cover. It was also homaged in Wolverine and Deadpool the movie, and this at a 9.8 has a fair market value of $11.50. It's actually on the upswing right now as well. Another one is Avengers 223, done by Ed Hannigan, and this one's pretty cool. It is an early appearance of Taskmaster, but that's not why. It's because we got that iconic scene which we've seen done in movies and TV shows where Hawkeye uses Ant-Man and puts him on the bow and arrow, and this is a fair market value of $350. Next, a great cover, one of my all-time favorite covers of all time. This, of course, is a classic cover. Is Crime Spent Stories number 22. Johnny Craig, a 6.0 sold, has a fair market value of like $12,000. These are extremely rare and hard to come by, and I mean, I just love this cover. FF84, great cover of Doctor Doom looking over the city, done by Jack Kirby. It's more expensive than the other ones in this run right next to it, just because if it's so cool having Dr. Doom over the city looking down on the Fantastic Four. This has fair market value of $350. Weird Science Fantasy 29 is done by Frank Frazetta. He's a phenomenal artist, phenomenal. And at a 6.0 has a fair market value of $900. Next is we got Detective 31 by Bob Kane. This one was redone by Neil Adams and Batman 227. Very cool cover. I'm sure you've seen this many times. This, of course, is a classic cover. And a 5.0 is going to run you about $175,000. Next, we got Spiderman 601. This cover just keeps on going higher and higher up. Keeps going up. More and more value, done by J. Scott Campbell. Fair market value for 9.8 is $650. And this will become a classic cover. I guarantee you that eventually. Just give it some time. Still kind of new compared to these other covers. Silver Surfer number 4. This is a classic cover already. John Buscema. And an 8.0 is going to run you about $1,700. And this is a cool cover. I mean, you got the Silver Surfer coming down on Thor on the Rainbow Bridge. What else could you want? Next is we got X-Men 11. This one is done by Jim Lee. This one is going to have a fair market value of $95. And this was actually one of his last issues that he did for the X-Men run. And then he went over to Image. Batman 423 by Todd McFarlane. This, I guarantee you, will become a classic cover if it's not already. It's kind of hard to say when. Usually, I would imagine it probably has to be like 50 years old. and so it's getting there. I don't know exactly when people start deeming it, but it's on its way there. And then here's the thing with these classic covers, once it becomes a classic cover, it's going to even go higher in value. So a lot of these are on the verge of becoming it. 9A is going to run you about $1,800. Superman 14 by Fred Ray. This is a great cover of Superman, Old Golden Age. And 4.0 is roughly about $3,700. And of course, these are CGC graded. Journey into Mystery 89, great cover by Jack Kirby. People love this cover of Thor. It has a premium just because of that. And a 6.0 is going to run you about $525. Wolverine 17 by John Byrne. Great cover again. I don't think this one is good as the Jim Lee from number 27, but this one has a price tag of $170. Suspense Comics number 3, Alex Stroberg. This one is very expensive, rarely comes up, and a 1.5, you're looking about, yes, a 1.5, you're looking about $66,000. Rarely comes up, but when it does, it goes for quite a bit of money. Wonder Woman number 72. This is Brian Boland, and this one will run you about $550. Fantastic Four 112, Hulk versus Thing. Once again, they did it in issue number 12, issue 25, and issue 26. I know a lot of people will say like, hey, they didn't battle in number 12. They just met. Well, they punched each other. So I would consider that a fight. I don't care what other people say. It was a fight. It wasn't just a meet. A meeting is where they, hi, how's it going? Shake your hands, and that is it. But this was a fight in number 12. So again, they continue the fight in 112. And of course, we all know the Hulk is strongest there is. And this is done by John Buscema. And a 9A is going to run you about $5,700. Phantom Lady 17. Done by Matt Baker. Matt Baker is a great artist from way back in the day. When he first got hired, he went to a studio and he drew a picture of a woman. And the guy said, this is the best drawn woman I have ever seen in my life. You are hired. That is exactly how it went. Anyways, people love this cover of Phantom Lady. A 6.0 is going to run you about $32,000. Amazing Spider-Man 33 by Steve Ditko. This, people love the cover because it's also tied to that story. They love the story. This is a story where Peter Parker has to overcome the greatest of odds, and that cover just reminds me. They also redid this cover kind of a little bit later in the series, solely based on that cover. You're looking at about $6,500 for a 9.8. Green Lantern 85, by Neil Adams. There we got Speedy shooting up heroin on the cover, and massive shock to Green Arrow. Great cover. How this got past the Comics Code Authority, I don't know, but it did, and a 9.8 is going to run you about $1,750. Iron Man 128. This is by Bob Layton. This is the cover where Tony Stark has to deal with his alcoholism, and this is where it came to a head. Great cover. It's been done many, many times. Probably will become a classic cover. I could definitely see this one becoming a classic cover. $900 for a 9.8. Batman 156 by Shelley Moldoff. And a 6.5 is going to run you about $260. This one has been redone before in Infinite Crisis. But yes, this cover has been done before. This is where it all started with Batman holding Robin. So we got Chilling Tales number 15 by Matt Fox. He didn't do comic books for a very long time, but his style was very unique. He more did pulp, and then like a lot of comic book artists back then, they went into commercial art. But a 4.0 is going to run you a little over $1,000. Here's probably one of the newest ones on the list, Spider-Man 856 or maybe 55 by Patrick Gleason. This one seems to be having the inkling of catching some steam, so I would not be surprised if you see more of this style, kind of cover swipes, homages of this cover in the future. You can get a 9.8 for $60. It's a little bit more than the ones next to it, but I would imagine over time this one will go up because it will become more iconic. Batman 428 by Mike Mignola. This one's about $500 in a 9.8. Sensational She-Hulk number 40 by John Byrne. A 9.8 is going to run you about $300. And of course, these covers are very popular. Will it become a classic cover? I don't think so, but people do love this cover. Blue Bolt 115, pretty scary cover by L.B. Cole. He has a lot of great covers. People love his covers. And a 7.0 is going to run you about $4,200. Submarine 8 by John Buscema. A 9.8 is going to run you almost about $4,000. Great cover. You got Submariner battling Thing, all black. Swamp Thing 9 by Bernie Wrightston. This cover has been going up quite a bit recently. 9.8 is going to be about $825. There's nothing really special about this book, but it's really cool. Swamp Thing literally coming out of the swamp. Very similar to number 1, but number 1 also has the ties of being number 1 and some first appearances. Next, we got Tales to Astonish 93 by Marie Severin. Now, an 8.0 is going to run you about $375. This is a cool cover of Silver Surfer and the Hulk battling out on an all-brown cover. It's been cover swiped and homage many times. This will probably become a classic cover, although Silver Surfer does have a lot of classic covers, so kind of hard to rank these compared to all the other ones he has. Next is we got Green Lantern 49 by Daryl Banks. This is a really cool, awesome cover of Green Lantern, basically getting rid of all the other Green Lanterns so we can have multiple rings. Now, I don't blame him. Why not have multiple rings? This one's going to run you about $120 for a 9.8. Captain America Annual 8 by Mike Zeck. This is just Wolverine slashing through Captain America. He's blocking with a shield and has an array of different colors and sparks. Really cool. $325. Mass Comics number 2, LB Cole. Like I said, LB Cole has a ton. You can just pretty much pick any LB Cole cover and it's going to be quite expensive. 6.5 is going to run you about $31,000. Spider-Man 301 by Todd McFarlane. He's kind of done this. This is almost like an homage to all the other homages he does. So it's very similar. He switches back to the red and blue suit, but this is a very expensive book. It is $1,300 for a 9.8. Very expensive compared to anything else. I mean, the issue before it was obviously $300, first appearance of Venom, very similar cover, very expensive just for the cover itself. And it's also pretty hard to actually get in a 9.8. Foxhole number 4 by Jack Kirby. There's an unknown series with Jack Kirby that he did basically before he started doing more Marvel stuff, like in the 50s. And these Foxhole covers all of them are just amazing and beautiful looking and very hard to come by and very expensive. This one in a 4.5 is going to run you almost $3,000. Daredevil 182 by Frank Miller. You got that cover where Daredevil, Matt Murdock, is hanging over the cross. $130 for a 9.8. Catwoman number 51 by Adam Hughes. This one has been going up this slightly over time and didn't really, just started going up a little bit, didn't have a huge spike like a lot of these in 2021 and this went down. It's just been slowly going up. $290. Punch Comics 12 by Gus Rika. 3.5 is going to run you $31,000. And then you got XMen 251 by Mike Silverstreet. Now this has become more iconic since it was in the Wolverine Deadpool movie, but it's going to run you about $250. And then you got Wolverine 8 by John Buscema. Now this is got the Hulk and you got Wolverine standing next to each other, and this is going to run you about $270 for a 9.8. Captain America 230 by Ron Wilson, going to be $350 for a 9.8. And you got the Hulk smashing Captain America against the wall. Now obviously he can't penetrate through his shield, and so it blocked him, but I'd imagine even if you blocked it and you got hit against the wall, I guess it would still hurt quite a bit. Good thing he has that super soldier serum. Then we got Detective 583 by Mike Mignola, and this one's going to run you about $270. Very cool cover with the different colors, with the orange and the bats flying everywhere and Batman. And he just has a unique style, such a very unique style. And it really comes through, especially on the more gothic stuff. And Batman is in that realm. Next, we've got Sensational She-Hulk number 34 by John Byrne. It's going to be about $110. Black Cat 50 by Lee Ellis. It's going to run you about $56,000 for a 9.4. And this is just great. You know, you got his face melting off, and people love this cover. This is a classic cover. X-Men 24 by Andy Kubert. It's going to run you about $120. People really love the romance between Rogue and Gambit, and so them on the cover is key, and people love that, and that's why this one is very expensive. Will it become a classic cover? I don't think so, but it will always be more valuable than the other ones. Then we have Amazing Spider-Man 347 by Eric Larson. This is an early Venom cover, and Eric Larson really... So Todd McFarlane drew Venom, but Eric Larson kind of made him a little more what he is now, more of like the snarling teeth and the long tongue. Todd McFarlane never did the long tongue. He had a normal tongue whenever Todd McFarlane drew him. So it was Eric Larson that actually made Venom more creepy in having the longer tongue and the weird teeth. Fantastic Four 72, this is a classic cover of Silver Surfer by Jack Kirby. A 9.4 is going to run you about $1,100. And then last is we got X-Men 145 at Dave Cockrum. A 9.8 is going to run you about $190. And this is, of course, is Dr. Doom defeating all the X-Men. Let me know what you think about the list. Now, obviously, there's way more than this, way more, but I just kind of narrowed it down to some that are pretty cool, maybe ones you don't even know about, and ones that you'll find very interesting later down the line will probably become classic covers. Throw in the comments below what you think will become classic covers down the line, and have a great day.